in college, it was a requirement as part of like my degree program, but I kind of like winged it. I didn't really do a real internship just because I was working already at Saks Fifth Avenue. So I kind of got that to be like my buying internship in a sense because I was already working there. But I also use resources like Indeed is really good. They post a lot of great positions on Indeed. Fashionista.com, they post a lot of amazing marketing, fashion, PR, design, a ton of amazing internships there. So yeah, I definitely recommend trying out those two and see if they have anything that you would be interested in.
The journalist that I worked for, I don't even know how I found her. I think I saw her on the news and she was like cool and had a cool job, and so I just emailed her and I was like, wasn't that informal, but I essentially said that. I was like, you're cool.
Your career doesn't have to be linear, and that's not a measure of success.
I would have reminded myself at my internships that I had no idea what I was doing. Like, I had no idea what I was doing, and I should have stopped pretending that I knew what I was doing. Like, honestly, I had no clue, and like, I have such a hard time with people that pretend like they know what they're doing. Like, just ask the questions. Like, these people are smart. They got this job or they moved up. Just ask the questions. Like, don't ask every question and like word vomit. But like, if you're an intern, they don't expect you to know everything. So like, ask the questions, or like, yeah, just like leave the ego at the door, because I think you'll learn a lot more if you just like listen and ask questions than just like pretending you know. Because I didn't have a clue what I was doing.
I feel like I have found a lot in my career so far that when I have been doubting myself, a lot of it has been made up or in my head. And kind of identifying those mentors we were talking about before, or people you admire, or people you at least work closely with, even a peer, just to kind of check yourself. If you really are feeling like I can't do this or this isn't working, like just having that conversation, because 9 out of 10 times when I brought it up to someone or a manager, I'd be like, I'm not performing at this level. They're like, oh no, you're fine. This was happening because of something else that's beyond your world or beyond your control.
Sometimes you have to fake it and you have to pretend that you really think you're amazing and that you can do anything, even if you're having a bad day and you don't feel that way.
But you don't have to pretend that you're amazing. You are amazing. I like feeling like people can come to me and rely on me to give an answer and a right answer and solve their issues. The least I want to say is just sometimes it's a lot of pressure because you're dealing with a lot of money, and a lot of times you are juggling several things at once, and they're all number one priority to everyone. So that would be my least favorite, but I feel like once I get through that, I feel like it helps me build on like where I could build from that. Like I could say, okay, I got through that, and now I could put that on a list of saying, like, okay, I could do this too, you know. So it's like, and I'm constantly learning also.
My favorite thing is probably two things. One is the variety. So we look at 600 different companies a year. We own 23 companies. I work with 5 of them closely. So you're constantly looking at things from all over. I've gotten to see some really interesting, kind of crazy places. I was at the largest catfish farm in America. I went to in Alabama.
Whoa.
Or no, Mississippi, sorry. I went to the factory that makes all of the rocket fuel for America, basically. Which was really, that's in the middle of nowhere, Utah.
Wow.
It used to be right next to the Las Vegas Strip, and then it had the largest industrial explosion in American history. So in 1988. So you get to see a lot of really crazy stuff and just learn about little things that you just take for granted, how they actually work, what the business is behind them, the people behind them. So that's really fascinating. The other thing I really like is, for someone at my stage in my career, I'm 28 right now, but I work with 5 companies where I'm not technically on the board of directors, but I go to every board meeting and I get to be involved, in those kind of conversations, which is really unique. And the people, the management teams I'm working with are career professionals, really interesting folks who've done a lot. The 2 things I find hardest, one is just it's a pretty formal environment, which is why I'm wearing a suit and tie, and I don't love that, particularly in the summer. But just generally, I think that it's somewhat stuffy, and it is just kind of is what it is. But it's not on day to day very enjoyable. And then the second is, as part of that, working with the senior management team, especially when things aren't going well, there's really hard decisions that have to get made. And they're not necessarily I'm making the decisions, but I'm part of that process and discussion, and being involved in those types of things and keeping your humanity and remembering kind of that there's people thousands and thousands of people that work for these companies is really challenging, and it's always with good intentions. And I think I'm fortunate to be with a group of folks that think about it the right way, but it's easy to I don't know, that's just something I think a challenge to deal with.
Two things. I prepare for interviews in the shower and actually give the answers in the shower out loud, because you want to be able to say them out loud, and you should prepare standing up because you feel more confident. So it's just a small tip. And then because I was in PR, think about how you would respond, write all the questions you could get and the things that will be on the person's mind, and then answer them in headlines. So what's the quick thing that you can say back to them that they'll remember versus because I get really nervous, so I word vomit, as you've seen. So just figure out how to respond in headlines and practice standing up and in the shower.
Best interview you can ever have is where the interviewer talks about themselves for more than you talk about yourself. And so literally try to make that happen when you're getting interviewed. Try to make them talk as much as you can, because people like hearing their own voice, and they'll come out saying, "Oh, I'm so smart, so he must be so smart."
Louis, I actually think that's a really good point, because that now leaves the opportunity for you to make a personal connection if they're talking about things, within the job line, but also talking about how they got started and things about themselves. And now you can make a personal connection that they'll remember you. Well, me and him had this in common.